everyone. It's me, Patrick from Outrageous Insight, a man who basically knows absolutely nothing about basketball, but who has spent the last sort of 48 hours going down various rabbit holes about two players, Jason White Chocolate Williams and Sophie Cunningham. Before we introduce our guest, let me just introduce the co-host, the inestimable, the unparalleled, the incredible Kristi Spence. Kristi, how are you?
Hey, I'm great, Patrick. I think I know less than you about basketball, and that was a very generous introduction. I'm happy to be here again hosting this with you.
Well, it will be the first of many, I can assure you. And that is a threat, Kristi. That is not just a promise.
Okay.
That's just literally facts. Let's actually now, before we even introduce our guest, let's just get him in for some good old-fashioned NBA and WNBA smack talk. Matt, we're not going to introduce you yet because obviously that will spoil the surprise, and that's Kristi's part of the script. But for those people who don't know, just tell us about Jason Williams first. Like, what do you know about him?
I got to tell you, if you've never gone down this rabbit hole, if this is all new to you, like it was to Patrick and will be to Kristi, it's worth a little bit of time. I got to tell you, you just have to search up, Jason Williams highlights. You're going to be well served. It's going to be an enjoyable time. I think my personal favorite is he has a pass where he fakes like he's dribbling behind his back, which is a very standard basketball move, but hits it with his elbow and passes it the other direction. And he actually, a lot of people do trick stuff. You think about like the old school and one tournaments and things where that was all that it was about. He's doing this in the NBA live in a game. It's just some crazy, crazy highlights, long, half court bounce passes, making people just look silly. He made a career out of it. Great guy to watch highlights of. There's an amazing ESPN 30 for 30 on his high school days. He was high school teammates with Randy Moss, for those of you in the U.S. or that follow American football. It's just crazy. It's a great story, worth your time for sure. And then, Patrick, I'll raise you another NBA reference because creative dribblers like Jason Williams or even today Kyrie Irving that are, widely considered some of the best handles of all time. Go back and look at Pistol Pete Maravich and some of the insane stuff that he was doing, both ball handling wise as well as scoring. He averaged, I think, 44 points a game in college without a 3-point line. So really interesting guy. You got to go check out Pistol Pete as well.
I will definitely do that. And what is really exciting is that coming up next week, launching on this show, is Cecily Schmidt. Now, Cecily was a former D1 player in basketball. She was loving the fact that I basically had no game at all when it came to talking about basketball. And she told me about Indiana. And so I've now been checking out Sophie Cunningham as well. And like that player, I want to get a Sophie Cunningham jersey, and I've never watched a WNBA match. Like, honestly, her smack talk, her just like monstering of other players, it is a true inspiration. Honestly, that is the person I want to be when I grow up. Kristi, have you ever been to a WNBA match? Have you got a WNBA jersey?
It's a game, not a match.
Yeah.
Game.
Have you ever been to a match?
I haven't. Basketball is not my world. I totally respect it. I love, Matt, what you were talking about, these players who are awesome and then they set up their teammates, like they use their skills to then, bring in other people. But no, it's not part of my world. I don't have a WNBA team close to me, but I totally respect the sport and those athletes. I'm a runner. Like I run in a straight line. So the idea of like coordination and dribbling and set passing, and it's a lot. And, those athletes are amazing.
Yeah. Well, let's have a bit less respect on this show. We can't just be all about like the hey, it's all about being a good egg. As my son said to me the other day when I turned off his Nintendo, he just said, that is not the behavior of a good egg. And I was just like, okay, fine. Like when you're getting smack talked by your own son. That is basically very, very fun. Quickly, before we get into introducing Matt, and obviously thank you so much for being here, Matt, but another thing that's really exciting is that since Kristi and I last hosted, we've started sharing just short, like 10-15 second clips on YouTube Shorts. And the growth of those things is absolutely insane. Like, I put up a couple of videos yesterday, just 10-15 second clips from guests. Some of them have already gone over 1,500 views in less than a day. So if you're thinking about how to build an audience for podcasts, think first about short clips for social as a way of driving some of that audience traffic. So it's just been a really, really fascinating experiment. And I'm sure I'm making loads of mistakes, but I just wanted to share that because if I get smarter, Kristi gets smarter. Kristi can't get smarter, but like Kristi makes me smarter. Then basically Matt gets smarter. Again, Matt can't get smarter. And then basically the audience gets smarter and everyone's happier. So let's better living through chemistry, as they say. Kristi, why don't you now introduce our amazing guest?
Oh, I'm happy to. So we have Matt Gooch with us today. Matt is a VP at Superfeet. He's also a runner, a former coach, and clearly knows a lot about basketball, which we didn't know, which is really awesome, and probably knows a whole bunch about a lot of other things. But super happy to have him on the show today and learn a little bit about his story and, some of the things that we can all learn from. What makes us tick, makes us make the decisions that we make in life and take us on our path. Before we jump in, Matt, would you just give us a brief overview of Superfeet? Like, what is Superfeet as a company? Who are they? And clearly you've been there a long time. Like, it must be a special place.
That is a very true statement. Superfeet is an incredibly special place. Next year, we will officially celebrate our 50th anniversary. So we've been around a long time. We really helped to pioneer the over-the-counter insole space. And really what we do is we make the best insoles in the world. And I say that as humbly as possible, but I'm really confident that that's the case. They're the most scientifically tested and validated insoles on the planet. And another thing that makes us incredibly unique, there's a lot of companies and a lot of spaces that make incredible products that do incredible things. Our products not only work in the sense that they really help people. Every single day I get emails. Anytime we get a review of our products, anywhere in our ecosystem, I get an email that says what the review was. And I try to take time every single day to read those so that we're hearing that, voice of the consumer and the stories that people tell about the positive impact on their lives that the products have, really empowering them to do whatever is important to them. It could be, trying to qualify for the Boston Marathon. It could be chasing grandkids. It could be making it through a 12-hour shift and everything in between. I love hearing that, and it's amazing, and it's kind of the foundation of why we've survived this long. But on top of that, Superfeet's an amazing company with what we do with the profits that we make from those successful products. 1% of our top line revenue gets donated back into a variety of different causes at both the hyper-local level in the county that we're located in Washington, all the way up to national and international partnerships that we have, and really goes to extend the reach and the impact beyond just the products that we make. And so I'm incredibly proud to work for Superfeet. It is a great honor, and it's something that I and my product team take very seriously. The responsibility of making exceptional products so that we can help empower exceptional people to do exceptional things.
Wow, you made me want to work for Superfeet. That's awesome, and we're gonna go into a little bit more about why you're there. But before we do, tell us something that we might not know about you. Like, tell us a story about Matt Gooch growing up. Whatever you want. Like, give us some insight into who you are.
Sure. So I think, I would probably describe my experience growing up as kind of like the idyllic American story of I grew up around a lot of family. I grew up being able to do a lot of stuff. I was involved in a lot of different things. Most of my childhood probably revolved around sports in some way, shape, or form. So playing sports, attending sports. As you mentioned, I grew up in Tennessee. So huge University of Tennessee fan. We grew up going to basketball games, men's basketball games, women's basketball games, football games, baseball games. And so a lot of my life, just in general, has revolved around sports. I played multiple sports all the way through high school, was fortunate enough to have the opportunity to letter in a bunch of sports in high school, and then had an amazing opportunity to continue that athletic career all the way into college and then into coaching. But ultimately, I think the ground rock of all of those things that has really kind of been very, I would say, like foundational and influential for me, and the way that I've kind of approached my career and things since that time has been, I did a lot of things that were challenging, and they challenged me, and it teaches you to delay gratification and to try hard things and be willing to fail. And ultimately that builds confidence in yourself and a willingness to kind of bet on yourself and to take those chances in the future. And I think that's really an essential thing that is kind of been one of those elements that has really dictated the way that my career has gone. Has been willing to take those chances and to bet on myself. And I think that all came from the way that I grew up, the family encouragement that I had, the structure that was in place that also allowed a lack of structure. So both of those things kind of working together and empowering me to grow up into from the kid that I was into the young adult that I was.
I love this idea of challenges, and I think that gets us to maybe what, helped you have the confidence to make this pivot, from one career to the other. Is there any specific challenge you'd want to share that you made that felt really pivotal? Like something you decided as a kid that was like hard that you overcame or that you did that helped kind of solidify that confidence that you had?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's everything from really little things to really big things. It's having the freedom to climb a tree that's maybe a little too tall, to
Yeah.
jump off of a rock ledge that's maybe a little too high into a lake that you think is deep enough, but you're not positive. You know, Jumping off of high dives when you're a little kid seems like a crazy thing, and it's so crazy now that it's really hard to even find them at a public pool in the U.S. But I think that grows, right? And so I think one of the amazing opportunities that I had that was, scary, I'll put in air quotes, scary, but it was a great opportunity, was I was an exchange student in Japan for about 3 weeks. I went and lived with a family in Japan. I grew up in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, which was one of the homes of the Manhattan Project that produced the atomic bomb. So we had a sister city in Japan. And we went and, you're living with a family for 3 weeks. Like, you're there. They don't speak a lot of English. It was the summer after my 8th grade year. So it's not like I was this well-formed adult, right? You're basically a middle schooler and trying to figure out life. And it was a great experience. I mean, it was amazing to be able to see that culture and to see the way that different families function and different schools function. And I went to school with them, and then we got to tour around Japan a little bit as well. And so I think that was amazing, an amazing opportunity, an amazing experience. And I think it's just kind of one of those things where it's unexpected. You don't grow up expecting to do something like that. My parents were amazing to support it. I was very fortunate to be in a school system that already had those things in place. I got to travel to Spain with the Spanish club. There was just some amazing opportunities to do things. And I think everything from, doing a bunch of yard work, doing a bunch of little things that slowly builds that confidence overall and your ability to do bigger things. And that compounds over time.
Matt, I absolutely love that. And fascinating to hear you talk about the Manhattan Project. A couple of years ago, I read an incredible book. I don't know if you've ever come across it, called American Prometheus, all about that story. And just sort of personally, how did you find that trip to Japan? That must have been incredibly impactful, given the sort of history of the place that you were with. I mean, let's not get into the politics of it, but just
Sure.
human to human, how was that going from the birthplace of the atom, the Manhattan Project, to Japan, which obviously sort of experienced that whole, instance so forcefully?
Yeah, I think I always go back to this one, I would say kind of like defining experience, right? I think anytime that you're thinking about whether it's today, culturally, different countries, or even within certainly your country, people that see the world differently or have different experiences than you do. I remember one night, I think it was probably within the first 2 or 3 days that I was with the family. None of them spoke English well. I think the father probably spoke the best English, but it was still very, very broken. Certainly their English was still better than my Japanese. But I think I remember sitting on my bed and I was listening to a Discman, as one did in the 90s, and he came in and was like gesturing, like, "What are you listening to?" And I put my headphones on and I was listening to, of all songs, Imagine by John Lennon, and he started singing it in English. And we had like this moment where we like sat there and we listened to the song together, and it was just like this amazing bonding thing. And it's this, I think, amazing reminder of, even though it's always more obvious the differences that we have, even cross-culturally, even differences in age gap and life experience and all these things, when given the opportunity and having both people be receptive to it, you can always find the things that you have in common and bond over those things in a way that I think makes everybody better. And so I love that. I think it was one of the best experiences of the whole trip, that was filled with amazing experiences and opportunities. But I think that's by far still the most visceral memory. I'm getting, you can't see them, but I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it. It's an amazing, it was an amazing opportunity, and I was incredibly fortunate to have it.
I love those moments that stay with you. I mean, you might not have remembered like the individual things you did on your trip, but you remember that, these connections that we have.
For sure.
Okay, so let's talk about this career pivot. What was the status quo in your life and your career before you made your decision to go to Superfeet?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, and I know that you ask it to everybody, but I think the fun thing about it is, for me, is like there was no status quo. My life was kind of like always slightly on the verge of chaos. I was doing a lot of stuff. I was coaching college cross country and track at Middle Tennessee State University. I was getting my master's. I was working retail and specialty run. And so from in Middle Tennessee, I was living in Nashville at the time. Middle Tennessee State is down in Murfreesboro. It's about a 45-minute one-way commute. And so early in the morning until late at night, I was doing stuff all the time. And so it was a lot of just turmoil, or turbulence is probably a better way to say it, just because there was always something else. My weekends, I'm on a bus going to track meets, or I'm working retail shifts, so like there's just a lot going on in that time frame. In that same time frame, I also met, or I should say reconnected. I did not meet, reconnected with the wonderful woman that is now my wife. And we got engaged all in that same time period. And so there was a lot of things kind of all converging of, hey, it would be really super nice if I could figure out kind of what my future plan was. And, I shared this with Patrick previously when we talked. It was this strange sensation that I had where I was going through interviews with other universities trying to find a coaching job. I was, if you would have asked me at the time, I was 100% positive that I was going to coach college cross country and track for the rest of my life. And so I think what was challenging for me is I wanted to feel the connection and the passion for what it is that I do. It's kind of like a non-negotiable for me. And I wasn't finding anywhere that I felt connected to. And so especially when you think about the personal connection that you build during the recruiting process, and you tell people, hey, here's all the great reasons that you want to come here and be a part of this program. I can't do that if I don't believe in it. And the way that you build your career oftentimes as a coach is you got to jump around quite a bit and go from this place to this place until maybe you're able to settle in. And that was just incredibly unappealing to me. I wanted to go somewhere and build and be a part of something. I wanted to go somewhere where I could be involved and really immerse myself. It's one of the reasons why I went to Furman University as both an athlete, but then I was involved in a lot of stuff on campus. I was able to be in everything from a fraternity to student organizations. And so there was a lot of involvement and enmeshment of me and the things that I'm passionate about. And so I'm not a person that's like a work-life balance type of person. Everything is a part of my life. And so I spend a lot of time at work, and I spend a lot of time working on those things. I need them to be super passionate. My family loves Superfeet. They're super involved in it in a variety of different ways. And so looking back, I was looking for that same thing. I was looking for that opportunity. And so that was kind of like the build up to the inflection point where a very unexpected opportunity that was something very different than certainly what I was expecting to do kind of presented itself.
So I love these conversations because I feel like, and I hope that listeners, people watching this feel it too. Like you can relate to so many elements. And this is not about me or, like, oh my gosh, but my husband was a college coach. Like I totally get this idea that it feels a little bit transient. It's like, it's a different path and it works for some people. So I love this that you talk about wanting to build something to immerse yourself. So what was the decision that you took? You had this unexpected opportunity pop up, and what did you decide to do?
Yeah, so I was like I mentioned, I was kind of doing interviews. I was getting ready to graduate with my master's. I was doing interviews and talking to other kind of programs there. Couldn't find it, and I mentioned I was working specialty run retail. We had our Superfeet rep, I would say previous Superfeet rep for the territory, reached out to me and was just like, "Oh, hey, by the way, did you hear that the Superfeet job for North Carolina, South Carolina, and Tennessee as a sales rep position just opened up?" And I was like, "No." But that's really weird and interesting. And I had made a connection previously to kind of then and since the longest tenured Superfeet employee, an amazing guy. His name's Jeff Gray. He had said, "Hey, who knows? Maybe at some point, I think you could be a great fit at Superfeet. Maybe at some point something could work out." And at that time, I was like, "Yeah, maybe," but I'm like real focused on coaching track and cross country, and so but let's stay in contact. You never know. And so I heard this, and I grew up in Tennessee, as I mentioned. I went to school at Furman University in Greenville, South Carolina. Shout out Greenville. If you've never been to Greenville, South Carolina, it's an amazing city and everyone should go visit. And spent a lot of time in North Carolina. And so I was like, oh, this is interesting, an amazing opportunity with a product that I love in Superfeet. At that time, I started wearing Superfeet my freshman year in college. And so I'd been wearing Superfeet for 8 years at that point, and sold a bunch of them in my time in specialty retail. And so was super passionate about the product, and knew that it was also a really amazing company. And so I reached out and I just said, "I have no idea if this makes any sense, but is it even a possibility?" Long story short-ish, because it doesn't feel like I'm keeping this very short. Got flown out for an interview, had that interview, and ended up getting the sales rep job. The original plan was to be maybe a rep for 4 or 5 years, and then some other opportunity might open up at the Superfeet corporate office, which is in Washington State, basically as far north and west as you can get in the contiguous United States, about 90 miles north of Seattle. And so went through that process, ended up getting the sales rep job, and then a year and a half later, we were kind of on our way to move out to the Ferndale area, which is close to Bellingham, which is a little bit larger community up here, to the corporate office. So there was that kind of decision of like, hey, do I uproot my life? I mentioned earlier how connected my life was. My wife was the same. She grew up, with a very connected with her extended family. Her parents had been in the same kind of East Tennessee community for multiple generations, as had mine. We grew up around and involved with our families quite a bit, and had really no desire to largely leave the area, or certainly the area of the southern United States. But there's just this like tug that felt like this was a really unique opportunity. And I referred to it at the time and have since as kind of like this feels very much more like a career defining opportunity that just, it shouldn't have occurred. It just doesn't make sense. There's not a linear, easy to see path to get there, but it was an opportunity. And so I really looked at it, and we really looked at it like we weren't moving out here for a year or two just to see how it goes. I was like, that's you're never going to fully commit to a situation like that with this big of a life change. So we really went into it. I was like, we've got to move out here with the idea that this decision is really like a lifetime decision. Like we're willing to go out here and spend the rest of my career in our kind of working lives in this scenario and make that level of commitment. And that's what we did. And so that was the shift. It was kind of being willing to make this long-term bet on myself. As I mentioned, I feel like it was one of those things that had just been building over both my childhood into my early kind of professional life at that point, and just felt like I couldn't say no. And so I didn't. I said yes.
Matt, thank you so much for sharing that. And you said earlier, oh, maybe I'm talking too long. No, this is actually like our method of operation, Matt. And it's quite revolutionary. It's called listening. And basically what we do is we just shut the hell up and let our guests basically lead the way. I don't know how you think it's going, but that is literally the thing that we sort of pride ourselves on this show.
Well, you've got a very willing participant. I'm usually, it's much harder for me to contain the length of my answers in most cases. It's kind of a thing. But I love talking about all sorts of things, especially things that I'm passionate about. And so certainly my journey, I don't necessarily love talking about myself, but I love talking about the people and the opportunities that have enabled me to have this amazing career that I've had so far. And certainly the companies like Superfeet that have enabled me to do it as well.
Well, we really appreciate you. Kristi, you were just saying that you were reminded of our chat with Andy Coutant, the former VP of product at the North Face, around risk taking. Just tell us a little bit more about the linkages that you were seeing between what Matt has told us and about what Andy said.
Well, I think there's parallels, but also, not only to what we talked about with Andy and being willing to take these risks, but Matt, also to what you were talking about earlier in your childhood growing up, and like the tree might be a little bit too tall, but you went for it anyway. And even the way you described how you reached out to Superfeet and said, hey, this may or may not work, but you did it, and I feel like I'm answering the next question for you, which is not fair. But this next question is this idea of what can others learn from your story? And I feel like that's what I'm learning, is that you planted these seeds, whether you did it intentionally or not, growing up, about taking challenges, taking little risks. And the additive effect of that is that when you get to this big career defining moment and you're considering moving your family across the country, it might be a tree that's a little bit too tall and you have the confidence to do it. So that's the lesson that I'm like marching away with and going to tell my kids about. But what would you say that others can learn from your story?
The thing I love most about doing this show is the chance to talk with leaders about a decision that they may never have spoken about before. Now, this might sound like a podcast party trick, but I promise you it isn't. In fact, it's the same skill that allows you to unlock what your consumers truly want and need. And using that raw data, you can then build more franchise products. The problem is that most brands have currently lost this. Insight teams have been cut, while the number of consumer questions and questions about consumers have only multiplied. And it means that most leaders have no idea where they stand. Closing that gap starts with the Consumer Delight Diagnostic, a structured interview that I run with you that allows me to score your team's insight capabilities and shows you exactly where you stand fast. 90 minutes, fixed fee, $2,500, no pitch. If you're serious about earning your consumers' delight, it starts here. Get in touch at outrageousinsight.com.
I think there's probably a couple things in that same vein of what you just mentioned. I mean, part of it is, the confidence to make hard decisions never happens in isolation or all at once, right? It's a series of events that gives you those things, and it's really a tool. And I think for me, that avenue was things like sports, where you have to delay gratification for quite a long time before you're able to see that hard work come to fruition. You're physically challenging your body. The other side of that, right, is what you learn through academics and challenging yourself in academics. Mentally is incredibly stressful to learn something new, to put yourself out there, to be able to struggle and persevere through that. And there's lots of ways that people can do those things. I think right now we live overall in a society where pacifying yourself and others around you and looking for an easier, more comfortable way is much closer to the standard fare of how society at least encourages people to operate. And I think it's just such an unfortunate circumstance that we find ourselves in that way. And so ultimately, I think hopefully some little shred of interest in my story or what people can take away is that it's important to do hard things and to challenge yourself. And so whether that is small hard things or big hard things, it's just important to do. So seeking out those opportunities to push and to stress yourself with positive stress that helps you to evolve and to grow is incredibly important for helping you achieve whatever it is that's important to you in a more tangible and effective way.
Yeah, that's so great, Matt. And I am one of the brands I absolutely love is Go Ruck, who make the backpacks. And they have these awesome morale patches that just say, embrace the suck. And I think that's what you're saying. It's like you said, both positive stress, but sometimes there's also a role, as long as it is not sustained and chronic, for negative stress as well. And I wonder, just reflecting back on your career as a coach, like, how do you think about positive versus negative stress? And also, can you please introduce the dog? Because I don't know if it's a greyhound or a whippet, but it is a great looking dog. And I think we should just start with that. And then let's get into positive and negative stress, Matt. Well, let me just unmute you.
A retired racing greyhound, and he's right behind me there. Yeah, he's amazing. His name is Smokey, which, as I'm sure, because you are such an avid University of Tennessee fan, you would immediately recognize the fact that is also the name of the mascot of the University of Tennessee, and you would be correct.
Are they the Volunteers by any chance, Matt? Is that correct?
The Tennessee Volunteers. Yeah, I mean,
the only thing I know.
Yeah, if you want to get into Tennessee trivia, I'm your guy. We can go down that rabbit hole. But I think
do you tailgate?
Tailgating is one of the great joys in life when you go to athletic events and things. As my dog now is deciding to not behave himself, but I think in general, it is one of those things where when you think about what happens when you do those things that stress you, and you have that. I refer to it as like a positive stress as opposed to like a negative stress. The positive stress is something that can lead to an eventual benefit, right? So if you think about something like lifting weights, it is a temporary kind of breakdown of muscle tissue. You're causing this micro trauma to the muscles, but then it's enabling you to grow as a result of that. And I think that's the type of stress that if we kind of make this line of demarcation, there's things that you can do that stress you that aren't resulting in anything positive. If you think about the example that I always use with my kids is when they say they're nervous about something. Well, physiologically, there's no difference in the biological response physiologically that you have to being nervous and excited. It's the exact same. You have an elevated heart rate, you have potentially shortness of breath. All of those things are happening and they're the same. So I said, you get to choose. Do you want to have a frame of mindset where you're nervous about something, where it's a negative, or do you care enough about whatever this is that you can say you're excited about it, and then you can build off of that nervous energy? I think those are the types of things that, in some cases, the difference between a positive stress and a negative stress can be the mindset with which you receive that environment and that opportunity. And I think you can always choose, not in some like Pollyanna sort of way where you're saying, oh, everything is good all the time, but you can find that. There's a former Navy SEAL named Jocko Willink that is a very well-renowned kind of speaker, podcaster, author, personality. And
he's always up too early, though. He's always awake too early. That's his big thing. He's like, oh, look at me, I'm up at 4 a.m. It's like, all right, Jocko, just put a sock in it, my friend. Come on, we've all been up early.
One of the things that he always says was kind of a mantra for them in the SEALs was that when something bad happens, the response was not to complain; it was to say good. So whatever is going wrong, it's good. It gives us the opportunity to respond to it in a different way, or for us to learn something new, or to push, or to grow, or whatever it might be. And so I think framing that mindset in a way where, especially when, this is kind of a product oriented podcast, there's never been a product that has been launched where everything went well, right? Like there's always ups and downs in the product process. There's always bumps. There's always delays and complications. And that's just the nature of bringing great products to market. And if it doesn't go the way that you want, which it never does, you have to respond to it. If you let it just derail the process, then you're never going to get products to market either built the way that you want, with the materials that you want, on the timelines that you want, if you're only willing to be working on perfect timelines. And so ultimately, I think there's just so much carryover to this idea of so much of life is how you respond to it, more so than what the actual things are that happens. Because, in reality, life's hard all the time. There's all sorts of hard things that happen. You can't prevent the hard things, right? We can't pad walls and round and soften corners everywhere. And so the reality is you have to be willing to build yourself into the type of person that is resilient and able to take that turbulence in a way that you can do something positive with it and use it to further grow you and take advantage of the opportunity that it affords, as opposed to just not. Because the alternative in that not is certainly a place that I don't want to be, and I don't think it's a place that most people want to be.
Don't you think, Kristi, that Matt's got a really lovely house?
I do. Although that's not what I was thinking about, but I do love your background. I was thinking about the fact that you used the word turbulence again, which I loved. You talked about in the very beginning that there was no status quo, that your status quo was basically turbulence. Mm-hmm. And then just now you brought that back. Like that is true for all of us, probably all the time. And I think, this mindset idea is that how do you use that turbulence and how do you view it? Like, does it constantly, like, are you just rolling around in it, or are you like kind of floating on top of it and figuring out a way to navigate through until you get to calmer waters? I feel like you mentioned you have kids. This is my biggest challenge as a parent, is how do you raise children that like try to embrace this mindset? And so anyway, another topic for another time. But we always love to ask guests who they want to learn from. Like, who would you love to hear from? And basically pass the proverbial baton to say, hey, I want you to be a next guest on this podcast to share your story about a decision you made that was really impactful.
Yeah, I think it's a great thing to do because I do think I will take maybe a slightly different interpretation of your recommendation. than maybe others have. I took a quick look, Patrick, at our shared LinkedIn connections to see what that might look like. I think there's some amazing folks on there that could be potential great guests. But I'll highlight one of them because I think it would be a very different perspective than what you have gotten so far. And then I'll highlight another one that's not a mutual connection, and I'll give you a free bonus suggestion, and we won't even charge you for it.
And Matt, so you're too good to me. Do you want me to sing you a song or like, that is basic. That's real service with a smile. That's Bucky's quality that you've just given me there.
Oh,
folks, if you don't know, Matt is also a massive Bucky's fan. Matt, please just do a 30-second, like sort of Shaq style pitch for Bucky's, because basically, like, it's amazing.
Well, maybe it's not for everyone, but I think the amazing thing about Bucky's is that you are guaranteed everything from a clean environment, a very busy environment. I can promise you won't be the only one there. There's probably a couple hundred gas pumps. There's no tractor trailers allowed. So there's just a lot of cars, a lot of people, and they have everything from very fresh food that they're preparing right in front of you, that they cook on premises, all the way to like a full retail store of everything from Bucky's clothing to non-branded Bucky's things. And then it's just a great service environment. You have, they pay their people incredibly well. So they are usually very, very in tune to providing great customer service. As is always well appreciated, I think, by most people when you're traveling, especially on a road trip. They have and pride themselves on having like the cleanest bathrooms imaginable for that type of experience as well. And so it's just, I think, a great lesson in branding. It's a great lesson in how you deliver on the expectation of a consumer, because now every time they build a new Bucky's here in the United States, it is now the largest Bucky's in the world. And so or the largest gas station in the world as well. And so it just keeps growing. And, they increase it by like a square foot, right? Like it's not this gigantic thing, but it now becomes the thing that people go to see. So as you grow the spectacle, how do you deliver on the expectation, right? So it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. So it's an amazing opportunity. It's an amazing experience. And everybody should go experience it once.
Let me just reflect one thing back on it. Here in the UK, just give me 1 second. Just getting a bit of feedback there. Here in the UK, one of the things that basically, so you call them like rest stops or like gas stops or whatever, like in the UK, we call them service stations. And service stations are notorious for being like dirty, smelly, horrible, bad food, like just such bad experiences, which is why it's so interesting to me that basically like this paragon of customer service has literally taken every single pain point from what is actually a very stressful experience and said, we're going to make this moment in a family's life actually really, really significant. The UK in total is something like about 1,000 miles long. Like it's nothing compared to the distances in the US. That's like a daily commute in America. And no wonder like Bucky's has got onto something, because they've been able to go, you know what, we're going to make this experience really, really special. So folks, Matt and I are not going to spend the next 25 minutes discussing rest stops, but just think about your own business. If there are pain points and things that people hate about your industry, list them, invert them. That is a massive innovation opportunity that can unlock tens of millions of dollars worth of revenue each year. Now, Matt, let's come back to your kind answer to passing the baton. I did distract you with the Bucky's discussion, but I know how much that brand is close to your heart. So I'm going to now unmute you. I'm going to mute myself, and we will get back on the freeway.
Well, and I don't know that I would say it's incredibly close to my heart, but it's always something that I enjoy doing. I think ultimately, like I said, there's two folks that I think could be really interesting, maybe slightly different than the guests that you've had so far, coming from different perspectives. One of those is a shared connection. His name is Dr. Jeffrey Gray. He runs a business called Helix, where they do footwear testing services for brands all around the world. And certainly, I won't tell his story, but he's an incredibly engaging guy, obviously very smart, both a great businessman as well as a former clinician, and then also technical scientist and being able to do this testing and doing things. And so I think he could provide a really interesting perspective on that transition. So that's our shared connection. And for those of you scoring along at home, the Jeff Gray that I met from Superfeet is not the same Dr. Jeffrey Gray that I just referenced. One's a J, one's a G. There's all sorts of differences. One has no hair, one has a lot of hair. There's a lot of differences between the two. But just to
like
not
me and
have
Kristi,
right?
One of us has hair, one of us doesn't have hair. That's
right. She hides her headphones. We don't. I mean, like, it's all of these things that are just these really core differences. I think ultimately another person that could be really interesting because not only is he a great product person, but he's also a founder of his business. This guy named Junis Khan. So he founded a company, or co-founded a company called Carbitex. They make these plates that I was talking to you about in our pre-show. They, in transparency, are a partner of ours, but it's a great story of being able to be willing to do something unique and interesting and different. And again, another really engaging, really smart guy that I think you would really enjoy speaking with. 2 for the price of 1. Can't beat that, right?
No, I absolutely love that, Matt. Thank you so much. And you know what? I wanted to just share something that's quite weird. So my mum is Swedish. And when I was growing up, my Swedish grandmother used to send me a comic every month from Sweden about this bear that basically, when he ate honey, he would basically become super strong. So like Popeye, but essentially with honey. He was called Bumser. But the reason I bring up Bumser was because he had a friend who was a turtle, and the turtle was called Skalman, and I won't bother translating it because my Swedish is so poor. But basically, he was like an inventor. And when you were talking about Dr. Jeffrey, who another good friend of mine, Brian McCloskey, who was at Under Armour and has now been doing various sort of consulting gigs, is also a big friend of Jeffrey's. And it reminded me of Skalman because basically he was this sort of inventor figure in the comics, and he had like this clock that basically would show him when it was time to eat and when it was time to sleep, and then when it was time to invent. And in fact, fun fact, folks, I've actually got a miniature Skalman figure here. So here he is, this funny little sort of thing. Dr. Jeffrey at Helux. Honestly, Skalman was one of my heroes growing up. So, please forget the top hat or the fact that he's a turtle. But I just love the fact that he had a clock for like sleeping and for eating. Like that is that is the good life. Maybe just for like a bit of sports and family, maybe is the other quadrants of it. But Kristi, am I basically having like some sort of am I having like some sort of LSD trip here, or is this interview still like working? Just please help me out here.
I think it all still works. You're giving multiple like people the opportunity to relate. I like this. Eat, sleep, invent. Triangular. how we spend our time.
Yeah, so why don't just before I wrap up, Kristi, I mean, I've taken so much from this interview, but like, do you want to just sort of give Matt the final, the good old light the fuse, heave ho with our final question, and then I'll take us to the bridge, as it were.
Yeah, so Matt, we're not like engaging with our audience and they're not talking back to us, but what is your ask from everyone who is listening? I mean, you've just shared some of your story and given us a lot of really great things to think about. Yeah, what would you ask of people who are tuning in?
And learn a little bit about what we do and why we are an amazing company and the products that we make. So I don't know if I was muted for that first part or not. I was just saying it would be great if folks would take a few moments and go visit superfeet.com, just learn a little bit about our products and our company. Outside of that, what I would say is I heard this great piece of advice the other day, and it was specifically in regards to parenting, but I also think that it applies more broadly, especially when you think about everything from leading teams to trying to get things done. And the sentiment, I won't get the full exact quote, but the sentiment was basically, don't do things for other people that they can do for themselves. Because when you do that, you steal their self-confidence for the sake of building yours. And I think that's really a testament, I think, to the benefit that I was given, both in my formative years as a kid, all the way up through my sporting life and that opportunity, and then into my career, even with my career with Superfeet, where I had the opportunity to and I was empowered and given the opportunity to figure things out. After my job as a sales rep at Superfeet, every job that I've had since then, and in almost 17 years, never existed before within the organization. And so I was given enough leeway to be forced at the same time to figure things out and do stuff. And so I had people that believed in me and gave me that opportunity. And so I try to do that myself, whether it's parenting with kids or the team that we have at Superfeet. And it's hard. I think there's been a couple different conversations that you've had as I've listened to the different guests that you've had on, making those career transitions when you go from being like the doer of things to the manager of people to then even a couple of layers of people below you. It's hard to shift from, well, I could do that faster, or I could do that. And it's something, honestly, I probably battle every day of wanting to just me to jump in and do something versus making sure that we create opportunities for the team to do it. And maybe that enables me to do something else that is equally as valuable, just different in my role. And so I think that would be the ask. Try to find ways when your first instinct is to do something for someone that they can do for themselves, to resist, to not, to be willing to let them do it, and thereby letting them continue to build that pathway of self-confidence and functionality.
Kristi, I don't know about you, but I feel like I need to go for a cross-country run now with Matt, sort of giving me a sort of motivational speech, or I feel like I need to storm a beach or something. I feel quite inspired. Not quite.
So do
I feel very inspired. I feel like I could literally I could do anything right now.
I feel that way too, Matt. I feel like, what you shared about your life and your trajectory and just how you view the world, it is inspiring. I mean, I feel like I'm going to go act differently toward my kids, and I'm going to, think about turbulence as no, I'm not going to get caught in it. I'm going to be up here and I'm going to reach for the higher tree. And, so thanks for that. And thanks for being such a great guest. And who knew you were such an expert on, everything from Buc-ee's to basketball to University of Tennessee. It's awesome. We're multidimensional people. It's cool to get to know you.
This has been great. I really appreciate the opportunity. I've certainly enjoyed the conversation. I think I'm just an incredibly curious person by nature. And so I'm interested in a lot of things. And I think my career up to this point is kind of a reflection of the fact that I have all these variable interests, except for the fact that I don't think my focus, I mentioned earlier as a kid, I was like, hey, there's a lot of family, there's a lot of sports, there's a lot of faith, and all of that is just kind of balled up in my childhood. It's still the same thing now. I still spend a lot of time talking about sports, making products for sports and activity for people, watching my kids play sports, being involved in that, being involved in family and my faith. And so as many twists and turns and across the country as I've gone, I don't know how much of those things has changed, but it's a great place to be. And like I said, I really appreciate the conversation and the opportunity. And this has been great.
Good thing is that Matt has now basically done my wrap up. So I basically need to do nothing. When he said he can just leave it for other people to do, he just did my job. So thank you, Matt. You were literally practicing what you preached there. Top work. Kristi, thank you for being an awesome co-host again. You just nailed it. You haven't seen the WhatsApp chat that we've had going on behind the scenes, but just as I sort of saw a problem, then Kristi had already solved it. So thank you, Kristi.
Thank you. It's always happy to be here, and I get to meet really cool people. So I'm grateful for the opportunity. Thanks, Matt.
Fantastic. And you're definitely coming back. Matt, do you want to come and be a
Okay.
co-host one day? Do you want to come and like co-host one of these with a VP of product at like some awesome sporting apparel or outdoor brand? I think I muted you, Matt, but let me just unmute you. I'm just having a bit of feedback issues here, but you're keen?
Absolutely. I think it'd be fun.
Fantastic. Right, I'm now going to mute everyone just to say thank you so, so much for listening to Light the Fuse. Really is awesome to have you here. Thank you to the people that are checking the podcast out on YouTube. Thank you to the wonderful guests and co-host. Please, if you can, leave a review on either Apple, Spotify, or YouTube. It will just help others find the podcast. And from me, Patrick, and my esteemed colleague, Kristi, thank you, Matt, and goodbye. Thanks for listening to Light the Fuse. If this conversation got under your skin, please consider signing up for my newsletter. It's called Read the Room, and it's where you'll find out first what I think about the interviews and the themes that we've covered, and also where you'll find out first who's coming up next on the show. You can find out more and sign up at outrageousinsight.com/read the room.